Welcome to the Dark Mysteries podcast, where we tell dark and mysterious stories. If you like the dark and mysterious, hit that like and subscribe button to help support the channel. Today, we're going to delve into a really perplexing story, the disappearance of Randy Morgenson. Just picture this. Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, summer of '96, towering granite, huge wilderness. And in the middle of it, a man who was almost, part of that landscape, Randy Morgenson, a backcountry ranger. This isn't just someone getting lost. It's a real head scratcher. You've got this super experienced guy, personal stuff going on, and a search that just went on for years. And honestly, left us with more questions than answers.
It really is. It's a stark reminder, isn't it, that even with, tons of experience in the wilderness, you're never totally immune. Not to the wild, and maybe not to, your own life's complexities either. And Randy Morgenson, he wasn't just any ranger. He was like a pillar of the High Sierra Ranger community.
Yeah, exactly. 64 years old, starting his 28th season.
28 seasons. Think about that. Nearly 3 decades living and breathing those mountains. He was the guy, the one everyone looked to, knew the terrain inside out.
He really did. A legend among his peers, honestly. Not someone you'd expect to just vanish. But yeah, July 21st, 1996. Gone. He left a note at his station near Bench Lake, said he was heading out for a short patrol, maybe 2-3 days, cross-country.
Right, but there's that weird detail with the note, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. The date. It said June 21st, a whole month earlier. They kind of dismissed it at first, but looking back, it's unsettling.
And what's really telling, I think, is what he didn't take. He left his Smith & Wesson .357 Magnum behind.
Which is standard issue, right, for a backcountry patrol like that?
Absolutely standard, especially multi-day. Leaving it behind, that's a big flag. It makes you really question, well, what kind of trip was he planning? Or maybe, what was his state of mind?
And it seems like his state of mind was pretty troubled. People who worked with him noticed he seemed kind of down before that season started.
Questioning things.
Yeah, like questioning if the whole career had been worth it. Plus, he'd just gotten divorce papers from his wife, Judy. And there was an affair with another ranger, Lon Leadness. It just paints this picture of a man really grappling with some heavy personal stuff.
It's worth thinking about the kind of pressure these backcountry rangers are under. Often pretty isolated, totally dedicated to the job, sometimes taking lower pay just for that wilderness experience. And there's this detail. If they die in service, the family gets a one-time payment, like $100,000, but no ongoing pension. So you have this deep commitment mixed with all this personal turmoil. It's a really complex situation.
And then there's that radio call the day before he went missing. Chilling, really.
What did she say again?
It was brief, talking to a colleague and his wife, apparently, and it ended with him saying something like, "I won't be bothering you two anymore."
Yeah.
In hindsight, that just sounds ominous, like finality or maybe something darker.
And it took a few days for anyone to realize he was overdue, right? Ranger Rick Sanger found him missing.
Yeah, which kicks off the search. And, even though rangers expect to be alone for periods, that delay makes you wonder what happened in those first few days before the alarm was even raised.
So the search starts. And it wasn't just any search. It became like one of the biggest, most emotionally charged SAR operations in National Park Service history.
Huge scale, nearly 100 people involved, covering 80 square miles of incredibly tough country. And these weren't just random searchers. They were his colleagues looking for this highly respected veteran, one of their own.
The challenges must have been immense.
Oh, definitely. There was rain right around then, washing away any potential tracks. And the terrain itself, the High Sierra is just vast and rugged. Cliffs, dense forest, the weather can turn on you. Searching there is incredibly difficult.
And there was that underlying thought, wasn't there? That maybe he didn't want to be found.
Yeah, that possibility hung over everything. They tried everything, though. Went through his logbook line by line, looking for clues about his route. They even did this interesting thing, a secret ballot among the rangers, to assign a probability of area, a POA, to different search zones.
Sort of crowdsourcing their gut feelings and knowledge of him.
Exactly. Combining all their intimate knowledge of Randy and the terrain to figure out where to focus. Bench Lake Basin and Marion Lake got the highest POAs. They even used a computer program, Casey, to manage all the search data.
Wow, so a mix of old school ranger knowledge and newer tech. That secret ballot thing really speaks to how tight-knit that community was. They were pulling out all the stops.
They really were. But despite all that effort, the results were just frustrating. Search dogs would get a scent, then it would just stop. Cold.
Dead ends.
Total dead ends. They found bits of gear here and there, but nothing they could say for sure was his. A helicopter with a FLIR camera spotted an unattended campfire at one point. It must have felt like chasing ghosts.
And then came the letter. It really throws a curveball, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. A letter from Randy shows up at his wife's place in Arizona, postmarked 2 days after he disappeared.
But there's no mail service deep in the backcountry. How does that happen?
Exactly. It immediately made people wonder, did he leave the park? Did he mail it beforehand somehow? It just deepened the mystery.
So after 13 days of this intense but ultimately fruitless searching,
They had to call it off. The official search ended. Imagine the feeling, the disappointment, the not knowing. It was like he'd just been swallowed by the mountains.
and then nothing. For 5 years.
5 long years, until July 2001. Then, a breakthrough, but one that almost created more questions.
What happened?
A kid, 19 years old, part of a California Conservation Corps trail crew. He wandered a little off the trail in the Window Peak drainage area, which was, interestingly, kind of near the edge of where they'd searched originally.
And he found something.
He stumbled upon human remains.
Oh, wow. After all that time.
Yeah, and the evidence found there was... Well, it was definitely Randy, but it was also weird. They found a tattered shirt, his ranger badge still on it, a backpack, buckle still fastened, and a boot with a leg bone inside.
So, confirmation he died there?
Yeah.
But what was weird about it?
The radio. His park issue radio. It was found perfectly functional, sitting on top of a nearby waterfall, not down at the bottom with the other remains.
On top of the waterfall. But the rest of him was below.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Rangers involved in the 96 search. They specifically remembered searching that exact area, including the spot on top of the waterfall where the radio was eventually found 5 years later.
How could they possibly have missed it? A working radio
Yeah.
just sitting there. That's bizarre.
Right. It makes no sense. Which leads us straight into all the theories, and honestly, none of them fit perfectly. There's the accident theory. Maybe he fell through a snow bridge, like one retired ranger suggested, hidden by snow and ice during the search. And his wife, Judy, she actually had this dream during the search back in 96 about a dead man floating in a lake.
Plausible, I guess, given the terrain. But the radio?
Exactly. The radio doesn't quite fit the simple accident idea. Then there's suicide. Given his state of mind, leaving the gun behind. That points towards it initially.
But again, the location of the remains, way down from where the radio was found. That complicates a simple suicide scenario. And Eric Blem, the author who wrote a lot about this, he suggested something more complex, like maybe Randy staged it to look like an accident specifically so his wife would get the $100,000 death benefit, because confirmed suicide might have avoided that payout.
That's a dark thought, but it tries to account for some of the weirdness. Foul play was also looked into early on. Remember, there had been some threats against him, apparently.
But they had alibis, right?
Yeah, seemed like those were ruled out. And the whole idea of him leaving the park and coming back, that mysterious letter feeds into that a bit too. It's all just pieces that don't quite lock together.
And that radio just sits there, metaphorically speaking, mocking any easy explanation. Why was it up there? Was he trying to monitor it? Did he climb up there at the very end, trying to make one last call for help?
We just don't know. It's the biggest unanswered question, maybe. The exact how and why of his death. Still a mystery.
But his legacy, his impact, that's not a mystery.
No, definitely not. As a tribute, there's a peak near Mount Whitney, unofficially named Mount Morgenson. Fellow rangers put summit registers up there, and later on, some hiker took over maintaining them, keeping his name and story alive in those mountains he knew so well.
It's a fitting tribute. But yeah, the disappearance and death of Randy Morgenson is still just a really haunting story from the High Sierra. A tough reminder of the risks, even for the absolute experts, and the deep mysteries the wilderness can hold.
So what do you make of it all? Randy Morgenson's disappearance, his death, that letter, the radio on the waterfall. What do you think really happened out there in those mountains? Let us know your theories. We discuss new stories every Monday, so don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment and tell us stories you think we should discuss in the future on the Dark Mysteries podcast.